Good evening and welcome to Sounding Board, a presentation of Soroptimist International of Novato, whose mission is to improve the lives of women and girls both locally and globally. Sounding Board is completely produced by members of Soroptimist International of Novato. I'm Freda Kaplan, and it's my pleasure to have Mary Ann Maggiore as my guest tonight. Hello, Mary Ann, and welcome to our program.
Hi, Freda.
You've been working with students in Novato.
I have. I had an organization called 5 for 5, and I have been doing it for several years in Novato, and I'm enjoying it very much.
What does 5 for 5 mean?
5 for 5 stands for the fact that we take students in teams of 5 for 5 years, and in that time we help them leave high school, get into college, make it through college, and then make it on to a good job. We've done 30 students, and they've all succeeded brilliantly, and so now we're choosing another 20 here in Novato, and we are enjoying it very much, and I think the students are too.
What do you do for the students?
Well, we help them finish their preparation for college, and then when they get into college, make sure that they have all the equipment, materials, money they need to succeed. A lot of them get scholarships and loans, but there might be fees or different kinds of registrations, or textbooks are running $300 a pop at this point, and so they often are stranded, and when a young person is stranded, they often drop out, and we don't want that to happen. Then when they finish college, we make sure that they have networks so that they can get a good job. Sometimes we find them jobs, and we find that most of the students need what anybody needs: good adult attention and a peer group that supports them.
Can you tell us about some of the people in the program?
Sure. We found that a lot of students who are in that middle 2.5 GPA, or are students who come from families that cannot afford them to be away from a work life, were not taking or couldn't have the opportunity of being in college and finding a profession, and so that they would be relegated to small jobs for a long time in their lives, and that was really unnecessary. Also, in the United States, there's kind of a crisis in education in that less than 20% of all young people who are African American, less than 17% of all young people who are Hispanic, and less than 50% of young people who are Caucasian or Asian are actually making it through college. In other words, the majority of young people in college who start out aren't finishing. And we wanted to change those odds. That's not going to work. We also found that a lot of students in this area go to a community college, Santa Rosa Junior College or College of Marin, and that works really well for a year or so, but then they don't finish and go on to a four-year college and really get that degree that they needed, or they don't have a direction to a job that would help them.
So true. Could you tell us a few examples of this?
Sure. Let me tell you how we began. I think that will help us understand. The examples will be in this story a little bit too. My daughter was teaching in a high school that was failing 50% of its seniors, and that happens here in Marin every couple of years. And so she was very upset about it, and I didn't know about this fact, but she and I were riding in the car, and I never sit in the front of the car when my children drive because it's very upsetting to me. My son says that I have alpha-cetophobia, and so I was sitting in the back, and I'm talking to her through the rear view mirror, and I said that I had everybody in the family knew I'd had a crisis. I was in one career, I was a writer, and then I was trying to figure out my next career, and I had a brainstorm. I was going to, so I said to her, I've decided what I'm going to do. And she said, yes, what? And I said, I'm going to go to Africa and work with AIDS victims. And I was very proud of myself. My identity crisis had ended with this idea. And she looked at me through the mirror, and she didn't say any affirmations to me. She was just like cold. And I said, what's up? And she said, you know what I really hate? And I said, no, what? And she said, I really hate it when people leave this country to do good, when there's so much good that needs to be done here. I said, whoa. Tell me what you're thinking. And she told me about these students who were failing in large numbers, and that was growing in this country, in this county and in this country. and that she had interceded with one, and she felt that we could intercede with many more, like help them through. I said, well, what shall we do? And she said, I want you to start a nonprofit and get going. So I did.
Good advice.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes a daughter can be the mother to the mother, so that's what happened.
That's wonderful. You had that idea, or she had that idea
Yes.
for you.
Yes, she had the idea for me. So what I would like to talk about a little bit tonight is the fact that Novato is a really special place for this kind of work to happen. And I really want to commend the city and the people in the city and the educational system, especially the guidance counselors in a number of the schools, and the principals have been very helpful, because there's a realization that this work, our work, needs to be done, that students need more than they're getting, that with the economy is such a crush and all the cutbacks, that people are going to be left stranded, and we don't want that. So I have started in San Marin High School, and I've got an invitation to also work in Novato and in Marin Oaks. And this year, what I think what we're definitely going to try this year, which is a little bit of an elaboration, is the job school. What we're going to do is take students and teach them how to get a job or create a job, and then once they have a job, how to make it along the way there so that they enjoy it and they progress in it.
These are high school students you're going to start with.
We're going to start in San Marin with a group of juniors, and we hope to have everybody go through a process from the beginning of March into the summer, and then each one would have a short internship, like 2 or 3 days in a business or in an institution that they think would be enjoyable for them, or they always wanted to know more about. And see if that makes them more comfortable, gives them better connections than they might have, and gives them some focus, because that's a big part of it too.
Prepare them for what lies ahead.
Exactly, exactly. But because I have a background not only in business, but I was also in politics. I was the mayor of Fairfax, and I've also worked with people in different kinds of educational settings. I also taught at Dominican University and started the service learning department there. I feel that there are a lot of opportunities and there are a lot of approaches to learning that we could use, that I can use, because I'm coming in as kind of a consultant to the school, and we use a lot of games and a lot of very entertaining exercises so that the students feel, wow, I can do this, I can learn from this and enjoy it also, and that's a really big part of it.
What's your success rate?
Oh, wow, it's phenomenal. We've been really, I don't say we've been lucky, but we've been really happy. Let's see, 80% of our students fulfill their education plan. So when they first start to work with us, we ask them to tell us what their dream would be about how they would like to be educated, how far they want to go, whether they want to go community college and then four-year college, or they want to go into a trade school or whatever. So 80% are successful in that. What their plan is, they succeed. And 100% of them, the first 30 that we worked with, had jobs within the first year, within the first couple of months of the first year. And that's really important. Like I said, you have to have good adult supervision, or what the University of Wisconsin called lightly assertive adult interference, you know, like an adult that cares about you. And the other factor is that we have our students in cohorts of 5, so they begin to do things together and support each other. And the things that they do, like a group are going this weekend to see a concert at the Marin Civic Center, and then another group are going to the museum in 2 weeks. And we make sure that their cultural world expands as well as their intellectual and their business, their career world expands too.
Are there some people that you could give us examples?
Oh, right. I promised that, and I have to fulfill my promises. Okay. Well, one of our students came to us. She was recommended by one of the school guidance offices, and she had to quit her involvement in all school extracurricular activities because she didn't her family, there was nobody in the family that was currently working. They had been laid off. So she had the pressure of her job was essential to the family. So the first thing we did was see if we could intercede with the family and make sure that they were all connected to people who could give them work, that she had some work that was wouldn't take her away from everything that was going on in the school, and that it would be more she could focus more on being a teen instead of being another adult in the family. And so that worked out really well, and she's one of the leaders in our program. We had another student, he's a young man whose family was splitting up and there was a lot of chaos, and so he went through a period of being homeless for a while, and that's never good, of course. And so what we did was we helped the family start talking together. We went to them and said, look, this person is about to go to college, let's start a conversation. And we also found out that there were a lot of things that they didn't have in the family that were keeping him from succeeding. So he needed like a laptop, and he needed some transportation money. There was no way. His school is a little bit further away than everybody else's. His home is a little bit further away from everybody else's. So he eventually was able to focus. The family kind of stabilized, and we was able to focus and get some work done. And now he's being admitted to an architecture school. So we're really proud.
You mentioned computers. That you got him a computer.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's really important for our students because, especially if we can find them a laptop. It's amazing how many young people in Novato have no access to a computer at home. So they do their work in libraries, or they borrow or go over to a friend's house. It's very common. And so when we register a student, the first thing we do is we make sure that we know what their situation is at home as far as what kind of tools they have at home. And so we're seeking laptops for every one of our kids. And sometimes a donor will give us a laptop, but sometimes a donor will give us the money. And we've discovered that I'm very good on eBay. I could bid right down to the wire. And so I bought a number of laptops, and we'll be distributing them before the spring is out, so that they can start the school year next year with really well supplied. But you teach. Do you have any secrets for what works and what doesn't with a kid?
Well, no, you just need computers, I think, for learning these days.
Yeah.
To do your homework, everybody has to have one. It sounds like an extravagance, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, I've been finding that you can get one for $150. So some donors say, well, what can I do? And I say, well, here, give me $150, or find me this laptop on eBay and you buy it. And it's really, people can be very generous if they know what they're giving to and if it makes sense to them. It's not just an idle thing. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how we find out what they're good at, because this is something that schools have had to kind of like shunt to the side. They're so busy do the A to G courses, the courses that'll get you into the state schools, or concentrate on passing this course, and there wasn't enough conversation about like, where are you going? What would you like to do? So we play a couple of games with them. One is called True Colors, in which we give them 4 patterns of lives that are of different types. Like one of the cards is green, and it has scientists on it and lots of numbers and fun things like in a juggling kind of position. Another card is orange and has somebody who's snowboarding, and also people who have photographic equipment, and they're lugging it around in these pictures. And when the students look at these 4 cards, we ask them to choose, like, which one of these appeals to you? And so often with teens, like, it's really hard because there's 2 or 3 like, whoa, I would like to do everything, and that's really great. But we encourage them to pick the top one, and I find that in most schools, and this has happened in Novato too, they often pick the orange card, which is the adventurer card, or the blue card, which is the artistic, romantic, inspired kind of card. And that's really very good for a teen, because they're naturally idealistic, and they naturally want to be outside. So the program that concentrates on making sure that those kinds of desires are met, and also showing them, if you pick this card, these are 50 things that you could do with your life that would satisfy your urges, would satisfy your desire to be outside, be physical, but also have a life that is lucrative, makes money, and has a meaning for you. Just as if you pick the blue card, maybe you should be in theater, or maybe you should be in design, or maybe you should illustrate books. I don't know. But that would be a direction for you, and these are all the ways that you could follow that path.
This gets them started.
Yeah. Right, and makes them feel inspired. One of the things about a lot of our society is that media tells us that gives it striated down to like 4 things: basketball player, Hollywood star,
yep.
media expert, whatever. And so, but there are so many other things you can do. Plus, we understand that in a lot of ways, the 20s are a very exploratory period, and if you were to start with that, you might find that worked for you for 10 years, and then you suddenly decide, wow, I remember that card where I was kind of also a scientist, or there's a gold card that is for people who are very mathematical in a way that would be like accounting or bookkeeping or municipal law or work in public service. And people say, wow, I forgot, that was another card I was thinking about too. So it might shift, but you want to make sure that they have some guidance so that they make it into something that works.
Mostly 545 is working in Novato.
Mm-hmm.
What about the rest of the country? Are other people doing this?
There are other people doing this, yes. Not quite the way we are, because most groups, in Marin right now, most groups are concentrating on getting students out of high school and into college, because there is a crisis in the graduation rate in this county. Most high schools are also trying to make sure that they can raise their academic performance index. The standardized tests tell how the school is doing. So there's a very methodical kind of measurement-oriented educational path that we're on. Partly it comes of the tenor of the times. Partly it becomes from economic pressure. And also is, part of the no child left behind. We've got to be able to measure everything that happens. So with a lot of the students, what's going on is they are just going by the book, doing the rote, but they're not exploring, they're not using their imaginations, they're not being encouraged to look at the world as wide. And so we are one of the few groups that say, not only will we help, we want to look after you academically and help you with that, and we want to see that you have the tools you need to do this, but we also want you to explore the larger world. That's why we take them into the cultural settings, like I said before about museums and plays and music. The other thing is I don't know very many, I don't think I know any in this area that actually make sure that they have a job when they get out. And one of the things about a teen's career is the first year of leaving high school and getting into college or a trade program, or if they go directly to work, is very intense. So they need a lot of overseeing then. And then they kind of go through a period where they settle into what they're doing, whether it's school or work or whatever. And then when they finish that phase and have to go out, like maybe leave home, or they finish college and they have to find their own apartment and their own job and whatever, that's a very intense period. So if you don't, as a nonprofit, if we didn't follow them all the way through to the success of the job, then we wouldn't be doing our job.
So you do have a great success rate.
Yeah, we do. And we're really passionate about it, and it's a lot of fun. And that's something I think people have forgotten. Teens are fun. They're very inspired. They're very inspiring. I think it was Sophia Lorenz when she had her first child when she was like 39, and all the women's magazines, I was a child, that were like boo-hooing, like, what are you going to do with, a baby? You're old. She said, children are the best way to keep you young. And I think that teens are the best way to keep your outlook really fresh and new and a vital look at the world, because they have a lot of energy, and you can learn a lot from working with young people. I learn a lot from working with young people.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
how much does it cost to educate one of these kids?
It's not that much. Like I said, most of them get scholarships and loans, but a lot of them find that they need some extra help in one way or another, and it comes to about $1,000 a student. And they get a lot of encouragement and consults from us. There's 5 of us on the board, and we keep in steady contact with them. We make sure that they see each other 3 or 4 times a year. So we have these 5s that are going to movies, going to plays, going whatever. And then we keep in touch with them. We try to reach them every month or so. Sometimes it's a simple text, like, how are you doing? What do you need? How's it going? That kind of thing. Sometimes it's an email. And a lot of times we found that once we keep in communication with them, they start keeping in communication with us, and we get the good news. Like, I got 2 A's and a B, and I'm really excited, which is wonderful. It makes it all worthwhile. I don't know if people understand our name, but I want to just show it again. This is how we express ourselves in our logo. So we're 5, 4, 5. So we take our students in teams of 5 for a period of 5 years. That's our commitment to them, and that's their commitment to us. And it's really an interesting process. First, we see them in the workshops. Then we see them in small groups that might be interested. They evaluate us in the workshops and tell us whether they want to go on. And then after they've seen us in these small groups, we say to them, okay, do you want to go through the application period and process? And then they tell us yeah or no. And then we meet with them individually where they fill out the form giving us their vitals and how to reach their parents, and we want to meet their parents. And then there's 2 questions at the end, 2 essay questions. One is, you have a dream. In 10 years you want to be someplace, you want to be doing something. Tell me about that. And the second question is, you've had success in your life, some moments where you just rocked it. Tell me about that. And so sometimes we type it up together, like they talk and I type, or I talk and they type, or they write it out and we put it together so that it's a joint effort. And I really get to know them. We really get to know them. And their stories are incredible, what they've come through. Unbelievable. I had one student who, she had been living in Guatemala where there was a terrible mudslide after a flood. And she lost her family, and she was left with her grandmother. And her grandmother had some distant relatives that would take her in, but they didn't want to take in the kid. And finally the child met a friend, and they decided to walk here from Guatemala. They had no money, and they had no adult help or anything. It took them 3 months to walk to Los Angeles, and they lived in dumpsters and tried to avoid, being arrested or getting in any trouble. And when they got to Los Angeles, they had some family, and the family drove them here to an uncle who took them in.
Whoa, that's quite a story.
Yeah.
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 So, it's interesting that it's not just individually that you do this. You have groups of 5. That's unusual, I think.
Yes, it is. Well, I had learned that in Israel, where they have kibbutzim, where they have people living communally, the nursery schools there divide their groups into 5 because 5 has the most kind of floating kind of possibilities. And so like 2 people and 3 people will play together for a while. 4 and 1 will play together for a while. 5 can sometimes be all together. And so that could be really it floated really well. So I thought, well, let me try that. I'm also the oldest of 5, so I know how it works.
Very interesting. How do you fund this organization?
We have grants from foundations. I just finished, I think I finished 3, my assistant and I finished 3 of them just the day before yesterday. We were working on for a couple weeks. Foundations, donors, and then we have events. And if your public would like to join us, either to donate, to give a laptop, or would like to participate in events, we have fun events. We just have wonderful dances, and we had a garage sale where everybody said afterwards, that was so much fun, it didn't even feel like work. So I think that the people of Novato and the kids of Novato are like, this is like a jewel in the county for really being focused on what's good for youth and what the possibilities are for a new path, and that's what we're about.
So if people do want to help, how do they get in touch with you?
We have a website, and that is www.5for5.org, and You can also, if you ever forget that, you can look me up on the web. My name is Maggiore, which is the same as the lake, the biggest lake in Italy, so that's pretty easy. And also, they can phone us. We're in the phone book, and whether you have a young person who we should meet or you want to help, we're welcoming people to get in touch.
What are some of the challenges that you've met? Is it raising money?
Raising money is always a challenge, yes, and there's also challenges in sometimes just getting everybody integrated into the program, so that, like, you have the guidance counselor, you have the parents, you have the kid, you have their focus. You might even get them to the college and have them meet certain people there. So it's a complex weaving, but it can be done, and we do it over and over and over again. So it's really good. The only other thing I would say is that teens sometimes are reluctant, and I feel this too. Sometimes when you need help, I don't know if this happens to you, you don't ask right away. So sometimes they ask during the crisis instead of just before the crisis. But that's part of the work of the world of young people. You know, they're learning how to ask for help and how to be in touch. And so we do have moments where somebody will say, you know, if I don't have this $500 for this fee, I have to quit. But I will say this, that generally young people drop out of school not because of something huge, which they often are managing, like they have this whole load on their shoulders, but there will be a final small thing that will take them out of the mix. And we don't want that small thing to hurt them.
Such as?
Well, we had one student, she was just about to finish college, and she called us and she said she was going to have to delay for a year. And when we hear that a student is going to delay for a year, like, that's the death knell to us. Like, oh my God, what's going on? So we sat her down and said, what's the problem? She said, well, she had a car that had such bad tires that she had a flat every week for 4 weeks, and she couldn't handle it anymore. She would need to get another job. She had one job. She would need to get another job. And we said, forget it. We're buying you new tires. I had another student. He had three jobs, and he was helping to raise his brother. They had been orphaned as young people, and he said he had to take a year off. And I said, no, that's just not going to happen. What can I do for you? And he said, well, I have these 3 jobs, and I got to drop one, or I'm going to go crazy. I can't do everything. And I said, okay, what's the third job worth? And he said $250 a month. So we paid him $2,500 to quit that job for the year. And so we sent him $250 a month. That's not very much money to save a person's future.
No. How do these students hear about you?
They hear about us through the schools, and they hear about each other, us through each other, which is really helpful. And then I'm hoping that this will introduce some more of your young people to us too, and their parents.
Do you expect to work with people besides in Novato or San Marin?
Yes. We have been working toward expanding to, like I said, Novato High and to Marin Oaks. And we have a couple of students available to us in San Rafael. And then we have another group of people working in Los Angeles, because there are lots of challenges there, of course.
Wow. So they can get in touch with you, they can volunteer, they can donate and help support you while you help support all these wonderful students.
That's it exactly, Freda. It's really nice of you to invite us here, because the more people that know, the more people can help.
Thank you. Thank you for telling us about all this, that you're doing. Thank you for joining us on the show.
My pleasure.
So that about winds up our program. And I want to say thanks to the Soroptimist crew and to Rick Tucker and Leon Johnson of Novato Public Access Television for their help in producing this program, Sounding Board.